The Cowboys get a big victory over Pittsburgh, and a couple of unsung stars are part of the reason. I'm Barry Trammell, along with OSU writer Kyle Fredrickson. OSU gets the big win over Pitt, 45-38. And Kyle, a couple of nice contributions from guys we don't always hear about.
Yeah, first being the running back. We go into the season with this list of 5 guys, and I'm not going to lie, at the bottom of my list was probably Rennie Childs within that group, a senior who'd really been a plug-in back his entire career, had never really had a chance to be a featured guy. Well, he was featured against that Pitt defense, the first 100-yard rusher in a calendar year for the Cowboys. Got off to that 67-yard touchdown that really sparked this offense to start rolling in the second half. And get a real quality win over a pretty good Pittsburgh defense. So the team real happy for Childs, a guy who's really grinded it out his whole career, dealt with concussions and a knee injury, finally might get his chance to continue being the Cowboys feature starter at running back as long as Carson is out with that hand injury.
Well, what does that depth chart look like? If Carson is back, does that push Childs back to the bench, or did he prove his worth to be in the rotation?
I think he proved his worth to at least get the bulk of carries at this point. Carson, when healthy, I think is probably the most effective back in terms of his entire skill set. He's a big, strong, physical runner. Childs is a little bit smaller, but we just haven't seen enough from Carson, I think, at this point to say that he's the unquestioned guy, especially after what we saw at Rennie.
Now, of course, Justice Hill, the freshman, still in there and,
Right.
and playing pretty well, too.
Yeah, Justice Hill, had some big runs, but at the same time, you got to remember, this is just going to be his 4th college game going to Baylor, his first road game coming up here in a raucous environment. I don't know that they're going to lean on him as heavily as they did in some of those earlier games, but he has got as good a chance as anyone in this group right now to take assume that role as the premier guy as the season goes on.
Cowboy defense played strong in the second half. And a guy sort of came to the front that we haven't heard a lot about. Cole Waltersheed, defensive end from Munster, Texas, gets 2 sacks, has 3 sacks this season, has really been a playmaker for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Jordan Brailford has been injured just right before the start of this season and hasn't really made much of an impact at all just as he starts to rehab. And Waltersheed has been the guy who's taken his role. He's the #1 defensive end on that left side going into this Baylor game after that performance, which was very impressive. 4 tackles for loss to go on with those 2 sacks, really just being disruptive in that backfield, something the Cowboys are going to need. And a guy with a great story. He was a multi-sport athlete in a town of about 2,000 people, a little German community in North Texas. And the Cowboys saw the possibility of him being a great pass rusher, even though he was only 200 pounds and 6 feet tall. Gundy said if he stood sideways, you could hardly see him. So here's a guy that really had to work and to put on some weight. He's listed at 255 right now. So that's still really lean on the end for the Cowboys, but they love the production that he's given them and has certainly kind of validated Glenn Spencer's decision to recruit him, being that not a lot of other Power 5 schools were willing to take a chance.
Well, the kind of guys that need to step up for a team to have a special season. Stay tuned for further OSU football coverage here on News OK and every day in the Oklahoman.